Hey, everybody.
Hello, peoples.
Hello.
Hello.
Happy Friday. Cara's in the house.
That's right.
And we have Andrea with us as well.
Hello, everyone.
Hey, guys.
Hey,
What's up?
where's the echo coming from? Is it?
I know.
It was
now
coming
the
from
echo
me.
started again.
Now it's
All
gone.
right.
I think is it better
Okay.
now? Sorry, everyone.
Hello? Yeah, I think it's good.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right.
Fixed.
Every time any audio changes, my computer defaults back to the non-headphones audio, which is a really nice feature that
Fun
my computer
time.
has apparently.
Are you on a laptop?
I am on a laptop.
As am I.
Yeah.
These guys are on desktop computers.
Wow.
Mhm,
How
that's
very I don't know if it's retro or futuristic.
What does that tell
of
you?
Yeah.
I'm not sure. It just tells me that we're different in many ways.
Yes.
Ah.
And that's the only difference.
But Cara, you know
Nailed
what
it.
that
Guys are from
difference is? My computer is optimized for gaming.
Yeah.
100%.
Mine is
I have
optimized
a
for moving it around my house.
huge monitor.
Yeah.
As
Yeah.
powerful a graphics card as I can afford. That's gaming.
I also
That's
do
what
have a
that's for.
huge monitor, which is why I sometimes look this way.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're on my huge monitor.
That's why I got the headphone mic. 'Cause I keep doing this. And if I have a microphone here, it can dramatically change the volume. Got to get Bob.
I have a
on board.
monitor, but I never plug it in, which
Please
is
do.
a waste of money. So, Bob, are you eating one of those push pops from the 90s?
Oh, yeah. These are awesome.
I didn't know we still made those as
Is
a
it an
species.
Otter
yeah.
Pop or is it a Pedialyte pop?
From the 90s, I like from the 80s, 70s.
Yeah, maybe.
Pedialyte.
Yeah, Pedialyte makes popsicles like that too.
Oh, that sounds
That
nice.
doesn't sound
you're
good.
Ill. No, but when you're sick, they're so good.
This is old school.
Yeah, that's just sugar.
Wow. Yeah.
And I guess Pedialyte is just sugar and salt.
Right. Yeah. You add salt, you have an electrolyte
But it's
elixir.
healthy.
But yeah. Yeah.
And then my favorite part is coming up.
The liquid at the bottom. Yep.
Really?
Gotta
Oh,
have
no,
some
that's
liquid.
The backwash.
Yeah.
And you would
Oh,
prefer
sorry.
purple, which
It's
is
not backwash. I
That's
create
it.
this.
Well,
So I just joined the group. I just made it in time because I was busy. An anti-vaxxer has infiltrated my blog comments, so I was busy giving him a smackdown.
Ooh.
I'm
What
being
sorts
polite.
of comments were they making? Do we want to know?
Well, of course,
Was
they
it
come in
RFK?
guns blazing with the conspiracy theory. You're a shill, kind of like, please, dude. I mean, relax.
Mhm,
Just,
mhm.
You know, linked some systematic reviews for him. Then he comes in with the list of studies, which he pulled off of an anti-vaccine website, right?
Mm-hmm.
And So I was just responding to that. Luckily, of course, we've written about those very studies on science-based medicine, which I've
Here's a
linked to.
link. Here's a link.
They've been retracted, many of them. They're published in predatory journals. The authors are anti-vaccine activists, but this is his evidence, for vaccines and neurological disorders. So I had to school him on that. But I was very polite. I'm like, listen, I get it. You don't know how to interpret the literature.
That's very polite.
Were they at all
Bless his
responsive
heart.
to that? Dare
I just
ask?
posted it. That's why I was there.
Oh,
I
okay.
just posted it. So we'll see.
All right. Let's all.
I don't know.
Maybe change
This
their
guy's
mind.
clearly
change their
a
mind.
true believer. I'm not expecting anything.
Was this a post about RFK defunding mRNAs?
No, it was about preserving food.
Oh, interesting.
Oh,
So
It was
doesn't
nothing to
matter
do with
what
what he's
you're
talking about.
writing about.
there's something to be said, and I don't think it's a good thing about people who want to talk about their conspiracy views so much that they'll just do it on any forum. Like it can be in the context of something that has nothing to do with vaccines, and they're like, and by the way, all right, that's that's always.
But it's also a good excuse if that's the definition of a troll is like whatever the conversation is, you come in with your conversation. So I can say that's troll-like behavior. You have been warned, and then if I want to, I ban them. But I very rarely ban people from my comments. Just it's a bit of the Wild West. People sort themselves out, though.
You're much more willing to engage with people than
I was
am.
just thinking that because I don't engage with nearly as many people. I don't have as many people I could engage with, and I still engage with a much lower percentage.
But keep in mind, first of all, it's mostly for the onlookers, not for that person.
Right.
I'm setting the record straight for everyone who may read these comments. But the other thing is, you never know. You never know.
Right.
Sometimes we get emails from people like, I was a true believer and you showed me the light of day, whatever.
That's rare.
It's rare, but it happens.
Yeah,
but it happens. But again,
That's
mainly
fair.
99% is that it's for the onlookers. It's not that person.
Right.
It's a good opportunity to say these studies are crap. Here's why. Here's a link to a science-based medicine article explaining in great detail and maybe a little bit of snark why they're crap.
Do you think one of the I made
Maybe.
some mistake and ended up in some corner of Reddit where people were arguing about some kind of linking to the same kind of predatory journal situation? It wasn't about vaccines, it was about something else. And is that the new frontier, is like things that are not real journals being cited as real journals?
Yeah.
Because that just seemed to me the person was like, well, I'm citing a peer-reviewed study. And it's like, well,
I'm
you're
citing
not.
right.
And it doesn't even have to be a junk journal. Like there are so many more articles being published every day now than in the past, and so many more being retracted. So even in a legitimate journal, if they catch it at the right time, sometimes we're going to find shit.
That's why I have to give multi-hour seminars to my fellows. I just did it yesterday. They're still asking me back to lecture the fellows on how to interpret the medical literature. It's freaking hard. It's overwhelmed with crap. You have to pull out the signal from a lot of noise, and it takes a high level of education to be able to do that well. And even then, experts will debate and disagree if it's tricky. Just going on the internet and cherry picking studies that are curated for you from one particular narrative and thinking that's scientific evidence, of course, is hopeless. But in this case, the guy did what we call zombie citations, right? Citing a retracted study.
Yeah.
Right. We call that a zombie citation. That's horrible. And they can't distinguish a legitimate journal from a predatory journal, and didn't even take the step of saying, who are these authors? Oh, this guy funds an anti-vaccine, organization. Is that that doesn't mean it's wrong, but does that mean
supplements?
Is that objective? So anyway, that's what we're dealing with. But you're right, it's hard. It's hard because there's so much noise out there, and you need a graduate level understanding of how to break apart clinical studies to know if they're of any value or not. Like the first study he cited, first of all, it's a pilot study. It's a phone interview pretending to be a study. It's not even really a study. And it's completely uncontrolled. It's self-report. There's no objective assessment of anything. And it's just correlational. And so it's uninterpretable and shows you nothing. And the fact that it was retracted for being awful and was funded by an anti-vaxxer is just the cherry on the top. But even without that, it's like this is the poster child of a shitty study. But it says what you want it to say, so here is the citation.
Is
And
your
it's hard.
strategy to be nice to people? Like, hey,
Yes.
thank you so much for blah blah blah.
At the beginning.
At the
Right.
beginning.
Yeah.
Although it depends. Like if they come in like insulting me, I'll usually will bite back initially too. It depends on what they're saying. I'll usually do it like that. What I just did, like pretending to be nice, but slicing right down to the bone in terms of criticizing what they're doing. You know.
Yeah.
But if they make an effort to be reasonable, or to engage, I will give them the benefit of the doubt for a while and engage reasonably. Again, this is mainly for the onlookers.
But
And then usually they collapse or they come around. You know, whatever one of those two things happens.
you're also, I think, much more patient and forthcoming with our emailers than I would be. Like you'll often engage in really good faith early on. You'll stop when it's clear that they're not engaging in good faith, but you'll go back and forth with some people. And
Sure.
we're always like, CC'd on all of them. So
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
interesting to see the back and forths. Very often when there's a listener who is, I think, like I said, in good faith, trying to counter or argue or bring something up that's new and saying, hey, I disagree with you because this is how I read the literature. And then you'll be like, okay, but we're forgetting about this, or let's look at it from this angle. And that's interesting. But sometimes it's just sheer, like,
sometimes it's me,
or like,
you guys
like
suck.
I'm just mad and you're going to hear about it.
Yeah, I just ignore those generally.
Yeah.
Even when sometimes I'm tempted to say, like, correct them on something pedantic, I'm like, it's not worth it.
And there was a time when there was
Pedantic.
like a lot of pedantic. Yeah, they can correct us on that. When there was a lot of like sexist emails, and I never engage. Well, I mostly never engage with those. But there was a time, I think, when you were pretty good about being like, that's sexist. And then but there's also kind of I don't even want to,
it's a fine line, and you got to pick your battles. But yeah, I think sometimes it's better to defend somebody else than to defend yourself. You know what I mean?
Oh, like, especially with somebody who's misogynistic, because the whole that's the whole ugly truth of misogyny is that like my words carry less weight to a misogynist.
Right. So there's literally nothing you can say.
Yeah, it's why we need outlets. It's why every kind of, disenfranchised group needs allies.
Right. But and usually I respond if I think they made a factually incorrect statement that I could put in their face to say, maybe something will click. It's like, yes, you misinterpreted reality objectively here. You should think about that, why you did that. You made this demonstrably false statement, which I can now show you.
Yeah. One of my favorites was always like, Cara talks too much. She takes up all of the airtime. And then you would always respond with like, I edit the show. I talk the most.
I literally have
measured this.
I literally have it graphed out. I can see exactly what is going on. Plus, but I think also, and sometimes people make this mistake on both sides. They'll say like, "Stop interrupting Cara," or whatever. Like you get it from both ways.
Right.
People, I think, being too sensitive one way or being misogynist the other way. And I'm like, listen. You don't know what happens because the show is edited. It's all fake.
Right.
You don't know what's happening. It's that
for all we know, Steve is just making people seem like they're interrupting. Like just constantly making it seem like Jay.
Nothing is real.
It's more likely what's closer to the truth is that we are all interrupting each other all the time. And I bring it down to a conversational tempo, you know what I mean? I leave in just enough to make it seem organic and real, but that's it. So you have no knowledge of what's actually happening in reality because you're just seeing whatever tiny slice of the interrupting I let through the filter to make it seem conversational.
And
so
what's the difference, right?
And
between interruption and conversation.
Right, exactly.
Let me tell you, listening to a podcast where one person talks for 5 minutes, then the next person talks for 5, that's not interesting.
And we've talked about like moving away from that. Like we want more interruptions, more conversation, more back and forth.
Yeah. There's too much talking on this podcast.
I know.
It is like all words.
Edit it all out. Come on.
I'm trying to get better at that, but
too many words.
I ask questions and nobody's paying attention to me. So what am I supposed to do?
Well, Steve, I'm glad you said that because I've been meaning to ask, and I never think of it until I come on the show, which is, a couple times a year or whatever. because other people will say things and I want to ask a question, but then I'm like, am I interrupting? Should I be interrupting? Should I not?
You should be. We usually say, just interrupt, break in, and then I will edit it so that
just edit you back out.
It's so that it's smooth. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
there are definitely times when we're all engaging, and it's very clear to at least half of us that none of this is going to make it into
the show. Someone in the chat asked what percentage ends up on the cutting room floor. I'm actually curious about that. Like on average, would you say, Steve?
20%.
Oh, that's actually not much.
Yeah.
But there are some shows where we run real long and we're like, so much of that is going to be cut out of
it. So it depends. And there are some times where we go off on a tangent and I've already mentally made the cut. Like
you can just tell us
everything that's happening. And then I do at some point I'll say, guys, I've even said that literally, guys, I've already mentally cut this. Let's just move on.
And that's when I say my best shit after Steve's already mentally cut it.
At this point we are off script, so let's just move on.
Yeah. You're like
Jay talking about his bread
for now.
Whatever.
Bread.
But some tangent like this is not making it into the show.
Some deeply political rant that like has no business being in that section.
Yeah.
Or if we ever beat Steve in an argument, that's definitely not.
That's
right.
Out.
If it hadn't been
I got a reputation to keep.
Show, that would have been that whole meltdown that Jay had at Nauticon about the cockroaches, the beetles that could lift a certain weight. Cut all that out.
Well, that's the hard thing, right, Steve? Because like some of that is gold, but then it's just like
I know
too much.
So that's one of the factors I take into consideration. Was the comedy worth is the tangent worth the joke or worth the comedy?
Right.
And sometimes I'm like, this just isn't funny, and so it's just not worth it, or whatever attempt at humor that was fell flat, or like we're just talking at our ass for 5 minutes. Like none of us know what we're talking about. I'm like, I'm just going to cut this whole thing out. I'm not going to fact check all the crap that we clearly don't know what we're talking about, because we went off on some tangent. We're like, is this what's happening, or is that it? Is this it? We don't know. I'm like, whatever. I just cut it all out.
What is your decision making around? Because I face this with my show where it's like the episode's running long and there's a whole section that I think is interesting and some people think is interesting, but I bet many won't care about. Like sometimes I siphon it off to save for later and I never do anything with it. Like, do you have those, Steve, where you're release nuggets later?
If the show is long, and like one item went to 20 minutes, let's say, like it's supposed to be 10 minutes, but it went to 20 minutes. Then I have to decide, all right, am I going to like abridge every other discussion so I could leave this behemoth in the show, or I could just excise this behemoth and make it easier to edit the rest of the show, and then that becomes premium content. Yeah. So we already have a venue where we offload that. So like that's a good standalone discussion. We'll just take out the whole thing. I'll leave it virtually unedited in premium content. And now the show comfortably fits in the time that we have without me having to like really slash and burn in order to fit in this bloated conversation. Right. And we do that with almost every interview. Like we do 40 minutes to an hour. I put 22 minutes in the show, and then the whole thing is in premium content. Right. So I can just leave it unedited. Because you can't do an hour interview and a whole show. You know what I mean? Like there's just no way we could fit all of that. But it's always a judgment call. And it's always, how good was the discussion? How funny were the jokes? How long are we overall? And then, I wing it and just whatever happens, happens.
There've got to be some interviews where you don't leave it in its unedited form, right?
Well, it's always edited for, just technically editing it, but not content editing it. But then, most of our interviews are awesome. Occasionally, most.
I want to hear about the other ones. Let's go.
We have an occasional interview which is just mediocre. Just was like, that was okay. It was just didn't hit on all cylinders the way I was hoping it was going to. And then it's like I put in the show like the minimal interview that I could put in, and that's it. Like that's all you will see is the best of that mediocre interview. And I make it as good as I can. Again, not any fault of the interviewee. Just sometimes, sometimes there's a mismatch between what we thought we were going to get and what they want to talk about, or whatever. Like, just it didn't vibe the way we were hoping. And you just always get a decent interview out of it. But sometimes I want every morsel, and sometimes I want just the juicy bits.
And sometimes it takes somebody twice as long to say the same amount of things
as
somebody else. And so there's no reason to leave in,
exactly.
repetitions.
Right. Exactly.
Right. I've had people come on who I know are personally and are super fun and engaging and interesting, thoughtful. And then they come on and I think we all do a version of this to an extent, but they come on and they assume like
stiffen up.
Like, and they're just like, well, sometimes I think about this. And you're like, I've never heard you talk that way in my life.
Just
like,
talk to me. I know.
Shake them. Yeah.
Or you can hear them like referring to their notes about the thing that they're the expert on. And you're like, you don't have to. You just
they're like, let me just look this up. I'm like, and like the number of people on the internet right now who are not looking anything up and speaking very loudly is
that. It used to happen to me a lot early on Talk Nerdy. I would have like friends who were, scientists or experts in their field on, and I think they were just so nervous about being interviewed that they would have all these notes and they would be, and it was like, just look me in the eyes and just talk to me. But that's scary, I think, for a lot of people to go off script.
Well,
someone just asked, sorry, before I go under, someone just asked a very insightful question. How do you deal with callbacks to earlier in the recording that got cut? That happens all the time. And I'm like, shit, they're calling back to something I cut out. Usually I have to cut it out. Or I have to edit it so it's not obvious that it's a callback to something that I cut out of the show.
Or I guess if it's a recurring joke, you have to just assume that it's a callback to just
and sometimes I'm like, it doesn't 100% make sense, but it makes enough sense that I could leave it in, and people will figure out that we were probably referring to something that they.
Or you hope that the listeners are like, I must have missed an episode where you
or something, whatever.
What you're
but occasionally I'll leave it in if I think I can get away with it. But oftentimes I have to take out the callback if it makes no sense without what it's calling back to.
Yeah.
Is there anything that should be stated? Like no more referencing of this, like, I don't know, the kale joke or whatever, like whatever the joke is that you like.
No, that never happens.
No, I don't think so.
Steve doesn't give you a heads up. Like every time you talk about marbles and start laughing, no one knows what you're talking about. Like,
no, it's nothing. If it's something that good, I probably would have left it in.
Okay.
How do you deal with segues between topics?
There's always, because it's easy. Segues are easy because I usually go, all right,
thanks. Is easy. Speaking of which, all right, moving on to a segue. Some NASA news. Jim Lovell, age 97, I believe, died.
Lovell, isn't it Lovell?
I think it's Lovell.
Lovell, sorry.
Lovell,
is it Lovell?
Right.
Lovell?
Yeah, Lovell.
Jim Lovell. Yeah, you're probably right. Anyway, I think he was one of the first people to orbit the moon, right? Isn't that the first Apollo 8? And he was on Apollo 13, which was the catastrophic,
the ill-fated
Apollo 13. So anyway, that's a segue. What do you guys think of NASA? Go, Cara.
What
of NASA?
Well,
just in general,
I can say that I have a lot of friends who work more at JPL than just because of where I live. I have more JPL friends than straight NASA friends. And I say that because JPL is confusing because it's like, it is NASA, but it's also Caltech. So it has some private funding, but it's also government. So they're in some ways protected, like they don't get furloughed as often. But a lot of them are feeling the heat right now. They got an order that they have to return to work if they've been remote. And I know people who don't live in Pasadena anymore, who've like moved to other states, and now they're having to make big decisions. Do I come all the way back so that I can keep my job, or is it time for me to move on past past the lab? And it's a bummer. They were having to send Elon for a while the things that they did that week. You guys remember that?
Oh yeah.
Yep.
I mean,
crazy.
Unfortunately, yes.
Massively inefficient.
Massively
huge
inefficient
waste of everyone's energy.
Yeah, so just like any other institution, EPA too. I have one of my best friends is at EPA, and she's really struggling, really struggling.
Wow, but Lovell was 97. Good for him.
97, I believe.
Damn.
How old is Aldrin now? Because he's still going.
He's going. Yeah.
Buzz Aldrin. Not asking ChatGPT. He is 95.
Wow.
Yeah.
Does going to space, shall we conclude definitively that going to space increases longevity? Is that the thing we've learned?
Contributes to longevity?
Yeah.
In spite of all the horrible things it does to you.
That's ironic since they aged a little faster when they went away from Earth's gravity well. So how do you explain that, huh?
They would have lived even longer.
Relativity's wrong.
They were like microseconds ahead of where they would have been.
I like Ian's answer.
Movie set. I mean, it's air conditioned. It's fine. Pampered anyway. But anyway, pretty tremendous achievement going to the moon. Should we go back to the moon, Andrea? Thoughts?
Yes, let's do it. I personally would like to go. I don't think I could be the one to go, but I'm available. But no, I think so. And I also second what someone in the comments said, which is, the amount of money that we throw at the military and various other things. I think we have much more to learn about ourselves and more, you all have talked about this on the show, like the kinds of technological and other advancements that come just from trying to figure out how to do that and how to get back there. I'm all for it. Plus, I am a big fan of For All Mankind, and it just seems cool to have like a bar up there where you can like drink cocktails and look at Earth. Yeah. So I'm for. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Not a con,
I mean, of all the things we spend money on, NASA's budget's relatively teeny, and what it accomplishes, I think, is worth the investment. We probably get more bang for the buck from robotic missions. Absolutely, I can't argue with that. But the science, that would be pretty cool. But developing the technology for humans to explore space, I think, is an important part of the human experiment here, and it's worth the amount that we would need to invest in that. Which is not.
Is Cara disagreeing? Do we have a dissent?
Yeah, sorry, I brought it up.
It's all Ian's fault.
It's my fault.
I mean, moon. I'm the least about, but anything beyond the moon is ludicrous to me. It is a ludicrous waste of money.
Until for human, flesh out the Earth-Moon infrastructure.
I don't want to push out the Earth-Moon infrastructure.
We're doing like that, like expanse-style space ladder. Is that the Earth-Moon infrastructure?
I don't need an elevator.
No,
I don't think that'll ever happen, right?
I think it's an obscene waste of money, and I think that robotic space exploration is great. We can learn so many wonderful things. Adding the human factor makes it significantly, orders of magnitude more dangerous.
But that's the cool part of it.
More.
That's I'll do it.
It's gnarly.
You don't have to worry. Yeah.
And I think,
but Cara, it's less than we spend on Halloween candy. It is less. It's just not that much. It's just not that much.
Less than we spend on
Halloween into this.
Gilding the Oval Office.
The ballroom.
Yeah, just give me some of that ballroom.
No, not the ballroom, guys. He gilded the
just
Oval
the gilding.
Office.
You're right. You're right. I'm sorry.
Don't get me started.
Don't get me started. No, but
this is getting cut.
I think very often there's this.
Steve's already cut it.
This conversation that's left out about the fact that we're not going to terrorform any of these other places. We can't even
totally
make Earth
agree.
work.
Completely
I just
agree.
want to go.
They will always be bases. They will never. Terraforming is not even on the table for the foreseeable future.
But what
imagine
is
the live stream from Mars
base if we're not going to live elsewhere?
Well, you could still live there. Just not going to be. It's not going to be terraformed.
Okay, but that's a version of terraforming, a space hotel. It's still making it livable, which is ludicrous because it's barely. It's not livable anywhere else.
It's not livable,
and we're making it not livable here, and we can't seem to solve that problem. So it's like until I think we can solve the problem of making Earth livable, it's ludicrous that we go, well, we fucked this one up. We'll just focus on the next one.
But I think that's the wrong justification. I know
that's the wrong justification.
Right.
Yeah,
it's very often the justification for the people who are funding these.
That's things. A stupid justification. I agree with you. That is not what I would say is a justification for it.
What is your justification?
So, first, I do think having human boots on the ground does help the science. I do think it's a good thing for humanity to figure out how to explore, move out into and expand into space.
But why?
Again, because
eggs in the basket. I
do think that
part of it is part of that.
But he just said that's the bad justification.
No. Well, I think you're saying make the Earth livable. That's not saying. Well, let's abandon the Earth because we fucked that up. Let's go to Mars. That's stupid. But it is true that eventually life on Earth is going to see a massive extinction event. That's true. So it is a hedge, long-term hedge, to have humanity be a multi-planet species. I'm okay with that, but I just think also it's part of the adventure of being human and science and technology and being alive. And you know what I mean? Not everything has to have a specific calculated maximal efficiency. Sometimes it's okay to do things just because it's fucking awesome.
I agree
and
with
that's
that.
enough for me.
But I do believe that we are in a zero-sum game, and when people argue that we're not, they're not looking at the entire system. And yes, engaging in things just for shits and giggles is great, and engaging in things just to go, we did it, look how we did it, is great, but not when there are other things that we're not doing that we should be doing. And that's where I get frustrated.
Yeah,
Like,
I disagree with you on the zero-sum thing. I don't think economics is a zero-sum game. It is
there's
more
only so much
of
money in the system.
Well, but that's not true. That's really not true because money moves around.
Yeah, it's fungible, but it's
fungible,
still,
but
there's only so much of it.
It's not the money. The money's not the limiting factor because it's really
it's what we're doing with the money.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
It's what people are doing, right? It's how, at the end of the day, it's how many people are spending how much of their time doing something constructive or effective, and with what efficiency. That, right, money is just a medium by which we make that happen, but it's not really the resource. It's just a way that we allocate resources. And if this is something that excites people and they want to do, and and it makes people go into engineering and become scientists or whatever, I think there's a net benefit to humanity to that. And again, but that money could have gone to something else is so tiny, it's not even. Even if the benefit's intangible, it's way worth it. And we should be doing all those things too. I think that the engineers and scientists and the people who are excited about space travel are also the people who, like Carl Sagan's a great example. A huge proponent of space travel.
But was he a huge proponent of human space travel?
He absolutely was, because of the ineffable effect of turning that camera around and looking at Earth and saying, look at what that does to our perspective of humanity and this planet, this pale blue dot that we're living on.
He's a household name because of pale blue dot.
Yeah, right, exactly. So,
well, and other things, but
that wasn't a human man.
Yeah, but that didn't have to be. Yeah, like
I'm frustrated by the inefficiency of how we spend our resources on Earth. I'm frustrated by the things we're not doing. I get it. I just don't think that's the thing to focus on.
I think it's hard to say that it's not an issue, because I remember. Did anybody watch Summer of Soul, the documentary that Questlove made?
No.
Yes, I did watch that, actually.
That big performance. So it was 1968, right? The big festival. It was 1968. And it was really interesting seeing a lot of Black Americans interviewed right after the landing and asking them about their experience. Because it was wildly different, the perspective that you saw among the Black citizenry than sort of the privileged white citizenry. It was a lot of like, why the fuck are we focusing on this? Like, when we're still, don't have our rights, when we still are struggling with, and I think it's easy to be like, oh, we're just not putting it in the right place and there's enough to go around. But when you're one of the groups that's not getting, and you see people wasting
I
would
argue the problem there was racism, not the space program. I
agree.
And someone pointed out a camera's not a human. I get it, but it's also the testimony, the poetry, the experience of the people who went to space. That's even more powerful than, again, just the camera taking a picture of Earth.
I agree. I agree with all those things, but I think we also can't forget, like, it wasn't just we're going to do this thing because it's amazing and look at all the. It was, we're going to beat the Russians.
America, yeah.
I remember that it was like it was war. Like, that was really the motivation.
And now we got to beat the Chinese,
which is why we're not doing it very much.
Yeah, really.
And so I just feel like there's a lot of ick that we often sanitize when we talk about this.
Yeah,
and the colonial component of it is scary to me. It is.
Did you guys ever hear Whitey on the Moon? Did you ever hear the poem "Whitey's on the Moon" by Gil Scott Heron?
Yeah,
it's a classic one. It's exactly what you were saying about the Summer of Love, where it's like how Black Americans were feeling. Okay, Whitey's on the moon, but I can't pay my rent. It's like it's a very
I don't have enough food.
Poignant poem.
And I feel like especially right now it's hard because it's everybody's struggling to buy their groceries. Everybody's struggling.
Well,
yeah.
Again, it's not NASA's fault.
I do think, though, Steve, that something that you've said on a show a while ago was, one of the things that is happening is, if we're trying to figure out how to get humans to space, one of the biggest problems is having enough food to keep us alive when we go to space. So the innovations that are being put into place and the things that we're working on to figure out, can we grow things under strange environments, and can we create nutrients from genetically modified, like those sorts of problems. Like, if it takes the possibility of ending up on Mars in thousands of years to get us to do it. It could be something that makes life here better because it is a more efficient way of growing food, or we figure out a way to do something where it's more nutritious for smaller
potatoes,
less water intensive or whatever.
Yeah, there are
like, there's that
spin-offs.
piece of it too.
Another spin-off is diplomatic. I mean, going into space, again, it matters how we do it, but as an international project, the diplomatic benefits could be cost effective. And when you think about it, if they bear any diplomatic fruit, you know. But again,
if you look at the Russian scientists if you look at the Russian scientists and scientists from other countries on the space station, they don't have any problems working together.
Right.
It's smooth and beautiful, as you know, from what I've heard. So it's a really good indicator. It's a good, you know, goal for us down on terra firma.
But again, it's an intangible.
That
Did you guys read Orbital? Anybody? Orbital.
What's that?
It's like this thick. It's a really quick read. Anybody in the chat read Orbital?
Orbital, I'm not sure.
I think it won the Booker Prize recently, or the National Book Award, something huge. It is stunning, and it speaks to exactly what you're saying. It's a story about astronauts on a station, and another ship is being launched, I think, to Mars. No, maybe back to the moon, maybe to Mars. I can't remember. And it's, you know, they're from different nations. They're reflecting on the, you know, orbital perspective in it. But the prose is just really stunning. And I completely agree with everything you're talking about. The poetry, I do think that that's all there and that all matters. I think that there it is. Thank you. Yeah.
I like how it always cuts to me first. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know why it does that.
It's happened to me before too. It's not fun.
Yeah.
I highly recommend it because it speaks to exactly what you're talking about. And I think that I don't disagree with everything that you're saying, but just like we sometimes make the fallacy of going, that's not NASA, that's racism, or that's not NASA, that's these institutional problems. I think we also need to not have the fallacy of saying, if not for the space station, we wouldn't ever have come up with, or if not for space.
Sure. I'm not
we're
saying
going to figure out how to feed people on the Earth.
I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that, but it doesn't. I'm just saying, but there are but it's also true that there are technological spin-offs, even if they would have happened from some other project. But this is something that we get excited about that could do it. It's just you can pick anything we spend 20, 25, whatever $billion on and say, why are we doing this instead of feeding people? Why are we doing this instead of fixing this problem over here? You could play that game with anything that we do. It could turn into the fallacy of relative privation. And you should just say, well, we can do these things. We can, you know, address racism, feed people, whatever, and send people to the moon.
Sure.
It's not that zero sum.
The perspective is there is an order of operations here. Yeah. And if we're ignoring these things and focusing on these things, our priorities are out of order. And usually that's my argument. Yeah. My argument is not, let's never explore space. It's, why are we obsessing over like sending people to Mars? Why do we talk about that all the time? It's a massive waste of money.
I think Musk is obsessing about it. I don't think we're obsessing.
I think we historically did obsess about it a lot.
Not to the extent that he has.
When's the last time we talked about going to Mars? It's been
we've fallen off that Musk.
Well, it's not just that.
We
Bob, Jay, and I pretty much agree that going to Mars is not the next thing we should do. It is not the order of operations, as you say. We should go to the moon.
Absolutely.
That's the next step. And there's a lot of industry that can happen in low Earth orbit, high Earth orbit, and Earth-Moon system in the cislunar space. I don't know that there's any industry that's going to happen on Mars this century. We should work out the industry elements of this again within cislunar space.
Well, and that's sort of the colonial side of it that I worry about. I know that you're like, it's not colonialism if there's no people.
How does
there
it become
are resources?
Colonial? Yeah.
And we do not have a global governance system. So it's just another way to exploit resources and take from certain people and give to other people.
But one of the things that space issues lead to is global cooperation. There is a global initiative to deal with asteroids that could hit the planet, for example. So you're right.
True.
I do think it's one of the issues that actually can move the ball forward on things like having global cooperation on important.
I would hope so. Exactly. I just worry that we're really good at cooperating when we feel like we are being threatened, although climate change is a great example of us not even getting our shit together with that. But we're not as good at cooperating when it's a boon. When it's like, something that we get. Mine.
And everybody,
not
and
yours.
then we get the return to chimpanzees. Yeah, absolutely.
No, and another
I agree.
point in the chat that's good too is, why don't we use this spin-off technology argument for climate change and other things that are like less exciting and sci-fi sounding than space? And I think that's a totally fair point. And I
agree. I have used that argument. There's this great cartoon that I keep referring back to. It's like from 10 years ago or 15 years ago. I forget who drew it, but it's a cartoon, and they're like two people at a seminar or something on climate change, and like the speaker is listing all of the benefits of green energy, like less pollution, better health outcomes, energy independence, better air quality.
What if we're wrong?
Again, but what if we're wrong about global warming and we do all these things for nothing? It's there's all these positive things that come out of green energy, even if you don't think about global warming. It's such a net positive, doubling, tripling down on 16th century dirty fossil fuel technology is not the way forward.
Yeah. I mean, I think this is my undergraduate micro or environmental econ class was basically about that. It was like, what's the no regrets policy, where like, maybe we don't have to worry at the time, acid rain or whatever. Maybe that's not that much of an issue, but the things that we develop in order to address that are going to be beneficial for all of us anyway.
Right.
Cap and trade systems or whatever it is that we think will be helpful.
I write a lot. I've written several articles when new studies come up, and I think I've spoken about it on the show a couple of times about how much healthcare money we will save just by getting rid of fossil fuels.
Yeah.
Forget anything else. Forget any other aspect of burning fossil fuel. The healthcare benefits are massive.
Yeah.
Billions of dollars. It's like, and it's cost effective just from that perspective, let alone people will live longer and healthier. Like how do you can't put a value on that, but
the billionaires won't be living longer. They're already going to be living longer. So
not if the buffalo or water buffalo have something to say about it. Well, I think there's also the element that we've talked about earlier today, which is we're like two neighbors in a small town being like, I'm going to spend my money on food. No, I'm going to spend it on a telescope. Like, which one? And it's like, what about the billionaire, which is the military industry that's getting all the money? It's like, if it just gave each of those camps an extra shred of a percentage of their budget, we could all go to space and feed everyone and whatever.
But I think even within NASA's budget, within NASA's budget, I don't want to spend it on sending people to far-flung places. I think there's other stuff within NASA that makes more sense.
I think that's the real argument.
Robots.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. And that, to me, that's the argument worth having. Not do we fund NASA, but how do we optimally spend NASA's money?
Yeah. Robots.
And awesome argument to make for robotic space exploration. Absolutely.
Robots.
I totally
Sounds like Cara is pro Cylon in this chat.
Yeah.
I got a Cylon.
Yeah, I was
this is where
Cylon.
She's a Cylon collaborator.
There's a RoboCop Cylon.
Oh, Andrea, you'll learn the skill of just sitting back while they talk about their toys and then interjecting when they get it out of their system.
Not toys, action figures.
I'll just like
action figures.
Not
a doll.
In the corner and wait this out then.
It's like, I see you wanting to say something important. Trust me, you're not gonna get it out.
Go ahead, Bob.
And don't forget the spaceships.
Not a hint of irony either in his voice. What were you gonna say, Andrea?
Who knows? There's no way to know. Oh, actually, I solved the whole debate for all of us. Are you ready?
Okay.
So here's what we're gonna do. The robots and Bob's toys reminded me. All we have to do is get AI far enough where I can upload my own consciousness to a robot and then send that robot to Mars. Done. Solved.
There you go.
All right, I need to point out one of my pet peeves. There is no uploading your consciousness to robots.
Steve,
there is just it can't. What you really mean to say is you will copy your consciousness onto, and then that copy, while you are either dead or sitting back on Earth, that copy will get to go to Mars.
So it's sort of like cloning Dolly and sending Dolly's clone to space.
Yeah.
Like it's not
kind of, but it's like an emulator.
Yeah, right. It's not you. It's not your experience. It's completely a separate entity. It's just a copy of you. Yeah, just the idea of uploading consciousness. I would like to purge that from humanity.
Yeah, fair.
It does not exist.
All right.
it creates this false impression that your consciousness, it's a dualist idea. It's like you're moving from one thing to the other. You can't move your consciousness because it is your brain. And if you make a copy of it outside your brain, it's something else. It's not your brain. It's not you.
New idea. Yeah. Take the brain.
Take your brain out, put that in a robot.
Body.
That will work.
Yeah. That would work.
By upload, I meant sever and transfer.
Yeah, because the body is really the expensive part.
That's right.
Yeah. This is slowing me down. You know? Yeah.
Meat.
All right.
Meat suit.
It's a meat bag.
Is there any science on how long a brain, quote unquote, can last? Like before it deteriorates on its own, or
there's data on that.
I know it's true, but like, can it last indefinitely?
Well,
like,
but
it cannot last indefinitely because it's still made of cells, and those cells have a life cycle, and eventually gunk builds up, and you know what I mean. The cells aren't immortal, and they will not naturally infinitely replace themselves. For those creatures that can sort of live forever by replacing their cells, they have no transfer of like consciousness or memory or whatever from one to the next. It's just like having children almost.
Yeah.
So
like go back before puberty.
Right.
And it's like, what's the point? You know,
if you regenerated your brain, would it be you or would it just be whatever? It'd just be another person.
Is it like people cloning their pets, right? It's like you're not actually getting your pet again.
No, you're getting your pet's twin.
Or you're
getting your
child.
pet's not even as good as a twin. You're sort of
much younger twin.
And if you could repair the brain somehow to actually live for a long time, for centuries, then you could do the same thing to the body, and you wouldn't even need to.
And I think we have to really like caveat, like, yes, maybe we could figure out some sort of nutritional bath, and then we could get rid of the toxins and blah blah blah. But I was just reading Mary Roach's new book. I got the galley because I'm going to interview her on my show in a couple of months.
Which one?
It's about gosh, I can't remember what it's called, but it's about like
Fuzz Grunt packing for Mars?
No, the new one.
The
new one.
Oh, Replaceable You.
Replaceable You. Thank you. Yeah, it's about like either like prostheses or organ transplants, all the different ways that we try to like keep the body going. And one thing she mentioned, which I wasn't aware of, is that when you are, let's say that you have an unfortunate accident, you are brain dead, and you have elected to, have your organs donated, and you're on heart lung, right? You're a beating heart cadaver. They've got like days. They've got like hours to days. That's it.
Yeah.
Even on these really good, even on like ECMO, even on these really amazing machines, your body, it just starts to break down.
Yeah.
We don't have the technology.
And not to bring up that horrible story from somewhere in the Carolinas, I think it was, where they kept the woman on life support because of abortion laws and blah, blah, blah. Like they had to take the child out quite like as early as they possibly could.
Yeah, because her body was not healthy.
It's not like you can just stay plugged in and keep going.
No. Like, and I had a patient once that was on ECMO for many, many days. And that's, different than being dead and being on heart lung. That's being alive, but having basically a machine circulate your blood and oxygenate it for you. And I mean, he lost all his fingers. There are a lot of terrible things that happen because of the pressure on your lungs, because of it's not just doing the things that your organs do. It's doing them in a mechanical way that your organs aren't happy with.
Yeah, it's just a partial fix. It's not like your body's happy to be on these bypass machines. Absolutely. Yeah. It's like total parenteral nutrition. Like, we could feed you through the vein, but not forever. Like it doesn't replace using your gut.
Yeah.
Like at some point you have to exit the womb and live your life.
These are temporizing interventions.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. So Andrea, part of the reason why I wanted you to join us on Friday to talk about the fact we've announced it a couple of times already, but we haven't really talked about it. You and I are starting a new podcast.
Yay!
So tell us about it.
You guys sound so excited.
There's much rejoicing.
They're not excited
working
because there's nothing interesting to talk about in politics these days. We
just figured not only is nothing happening, but no one has a politics podcast out there. And so we thought,
there's no niche for
interest in politics.
So Andrea, you do this all the time, but Steve, on a scale of 0 to the most depression you've ever had, where are you netting out spending all your extra time working on this?
In terms of depression?
Yes.
I find it fascinating. No, I'm really excited about it. Andrew and I had a meeting on Tuesday where we went over potential topics, and they were pretty endless, but we came up with a ton of stuff. We're like, yeah, we got to talk about this. Yeah, this would be cool. And she has this massive list of experts that we could bring on the show, of people that she knows. Then we have our dream list of, celebrity
Pete Buttigieg
or whatever. Yeah, people that we want to bring on the show. But we'll see. We have some connections, no promises, but we'll have to see how this all plays out. But yeah, we're gonna talk about, it's really like a meta discussion about politics and from a skeptical, critical thinking, political science point of view. But we'll also delve into specific issues. This is going to be very much an organic thing where we see how it goes and what works and what doesn't work. But that's the plan at this point. Not to be like partisan flame warriors, but like, let's define fascism. How do you know when you're living in a fascist state? And just talk about that more in the abstract.
It's the boots.
It's like
and so but it's to respond to your question too, Cara, about depression. It's kind of, I find it actually very exciting to talk about this particular this podcast with Steve, and also in general, one of the things I like about political science is it's a way of, and it's not just a political science podcast. I will be bringing political science. Steve's bringing skepticism and all that good stuff, and then we're talking to experts like who know things about gerrymandering. Why does it happen? What does it actually do? What are the trade-offs? What are the arguments on either side? And for me, I feel better about politics when I talk about it from that kind of third-party level. And I understand that that's a privileged position for a lot of us. Live politics and we're harmed by politics and all of that kind of stuff. But one of the things I find empowering about political science, and why it's not depressing, reading the news is depressing. Political science I find interesting because you can say, well, okay, why are people voting the way that they're voting? Why do people seem to support this policy, even though this and this and this seem like obvious reasons not to? Why is it that approval ratings for this person never seem to change no matter what? And can we actually get into the weeds of what is that? Is it all social media? Is it this? What are some of the things that are working to change these things? And so for me, it's much more about like, how can we get to the bottom? And Steve is the doctor here, but, and diagnose what's actually driving the horrors that we're seeing and why it seems to be getting so much worse. And is there any chance that there are policies that we could do, what might work to change hearts and minds? Is there any way you could change hearts and minds? What is it that, and the other piece of it is that I'm a partisan person and, I consider myself politically on the left. And so I'm not going to pretend to be this unbiased, neutral beacon of truth, but it's much more about, and I watch podcasts that are on that side, and I shout into the ether on left-leaning podcasts myself, but it's much more about being like, okay, like, why are we arguing about this? And what do the different sides want to say? If I could remove my own partisan side and the other person's partisan side, we could talk about, like, what are the actual trade-offs for, say, a gun control policy? What are examples of rolling out a policy like this where it worked or didn't work? And what about other countries? And sort of bring in people who can help Steve and me think through the issues while trying our best to not let our own partisan leanings or own policy preferences get in the way of just understanding, like, what are the actual trade-offs afoot.
Yeah.
Well, and I can imagine too that, obviously I was joking when I was saying, how depressed are you talking about this all the time? But also it's like, people ask me that about my job all the time, right?
Sure.
Like, I work with people who have cancer. I work with people who are in end of life, and they're like, aren't you depressed all the time? I'm like, yeah, it's kind of depressing, but I'm not depressed all the time, because I also have this view that, like, we are all going to die. And actually, if we talk about it and we approach it and we increase our mortality salience, we become more comfortable with the reality that is. And I'm not saying it's about accepting fascism, but if we just pretend it doesn't exist or it doesn't apply to us, that does nobody any good. And I see that happening with a lot of, people who maybe used to be my friends or just acquaintances, especially on the left, who are like, well, I'm just going to disengage because the whole system's shit. And it's like, okay, that is not the approach you want to take. The minute you disengage and you say, well, throw up my hands, there's nothing I can do, or this doesn't apply to me, or you stop learning and thinking, yes, you have to take mental health breaks, but the minute that you're so disengaged,
they want you to disengage.
Of course.
Yeah, like, but is it okay to take a 4-year mental break?
I think that you do have to do things when there
you think it's only gonna be 4?
Well, that's the thing. When
Bob's an optimist, so
when people are in a position of power where it is either unsafe to be revolutionary, hopefully you can do it in the ways that you can do it and not go to prison or not, be harmed in the process. But for some people, they can't do that, and they do have to keep their heads down. But that doesn't mean that they've lost their their ideology or their fight, you know? And yeah, I think some of us do have to kind of get a little quiet right now. Those of us who have the privilege to stay loud need to stay loud.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
it takes all types. And some people have to be quiet right now.
I mean, and one of the, and Steve, we didn't talk about this particular topic, I don't think, but one topic could be, you know, when you're in a situation where you see your country or the world or trends that are concerning to you, or not even at a national level, something that's happening, you know, access to food, hypothetically, what are the things that we can do that actually make a difference? And there are people researching, you know, does writing to your senator make a difference? To what extent does posting on social media do something? And Steve said this earlier, you know, if you disagree with a troll, it's not for the troll, it's for everyone else who's seeing it. So what's the effectiveness and the knock-on effects of that sort of thing? What form of being loud works, and works for different people, right? Some people, if you, you know, have autism, you're not going to go to a protest because you're not going to be able to be comfortable there. So how can you participate in some other way? And so that's kind of,
there's never
again,
that one answer.
Yeah.
Well, exactly.
Yeah.
And it's not to say either that this is a I run into this a lot in my own thinking where I'm like, why am I sitting back and let's think about it instead of going and doing something? It's I see them as complementary, right? You can be an activist and be a part of it, and also step back and say, like, why can't we seem to persuade the other side? Like, why is this something that we can't? There is a policy solution out there. What is it? And what are the barriers to getting to it? Or there's not one, there's a spectrum. What are the trade-offs around those? And how do we decide that we want to land?
Yeah. Activism, education, activism, research, there are all these different, I think about like women's suffrage, right? And it's very easy when you look back and you like, you know, quarterback or not quarterback. Is that what they call it? Monday morning quarterback.
Yes.
Why? Why don't they call it Monday morning referee?
I was thinking about the horse, like a quarter horse.
No, because the quarterback kind of calls the plays.
Right. Okay. So they're saying you should have done this. You should have done that.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Which is like, come on, man. So, and I think we can do that when we look back at like women's suffrage, and there's always those people took it too far. Those people shouldn't have done that. These people should have been mourned. But the truth of the matter is, it took all of them. There's always got to be the people on the bleeding edge, and there's got to be the people doing the shit that you're like, that seems beyond the pale. And there's got to be the people who are doing it in the policy wonk way. And it takes all of that for the needle to move. And I think we forget that sometimes, and we just quibble amongst ourselves which approach is appropriate. And it's like, we need multiple approaches.
Yeah.
Right. Kind of like how we were arguing about space or humans in space versus, you know, solving all the Earth's problems. And Elon Musk and billionaires are up there doing whatever they want. So it's like, they're both probably fine in the scheme of what we're up against.
Penis rockets.
Yeah.
Penis rockets.
Someone in the chat.
Kubrick would love it. Love it. So,
oh my God, right?
Yeah. So like one of the things that when Andrew and I were talking about, like really framing this podcast, because there's so many issues to think about. One is that, you know, one of the things we want to accomplish is to say, listen, you can have whatever opinion you want to have, but if you want your opinion to be informed and internally consistent and logical, these are the things you need to think about. These are the things you need to know. These are the things you need to consider. Now, go and you could prioritize your trade-offs any way you want to, but don't cite things that are wrong to justify it, right? Or don't get the science wrong, or don't, you know, employ these poor logical strategies or whatever, or don't ignore these trade-offs. So it's we're just kind of the approach we take with SGU, where it's like, as we've said before, we're not telling you what to think as much as how to think. Because that's really, it's like the teaching someone to fish versus giving them a fish thing. It's like, give you the tools so that the next time you have a political discussion about something, maybe it'll be on slightly a deeper level. And also bring the heat down and the light up, right? Because there's politics is all heat, no light, and it's so exhausting. Can we just take a break, lower the temperature, shed some light on it, and have a real fucking discussion about what's actually going on here and what the trade-offs are, et cetera, et cetera.
And, you know, there's plenty to be angry about, and I am angry about it. And someone in the chat said politics make them angry. Politics makes me angry, and talking about politics and listening to politics, like, I get furious. And I think we can talk about it without anger and actually try to understand it. Again, not saying that that's at the expense of the anger or that the anger is invalid or wrong, but it's to say that what if I could get my emotions out of it, I would love to know what a gun control policy looks like that minimizes death. Like, I would love to know what the math is around that. And there must be a way to at least get closer to that, because I have my partisan ideas about we should have this and we should have that and we should have the common sense, all of those things. But I really think that there's a way that we could try to better understand like what might actually work. And this is not to say, Steve, you and I have talked about this too, is that this isn't to say we're doing a both sidesism or there's good people on all sides.
No false balance. It's not false
balance. Or putting
balance.
like, let's put
it's more about being above the fray.
Yeah. And saying just like, okay, when we gerrymander, what is it? Who is being disenfranchised by that? How is it changing things? What is the origin? Why does it exist? How is it a thing that set aside what my partisan ideas is? I just want to understand what's going on. Sort of in a way of, well, I'm not going to say like a doctor just wants to cure cancer regardless of how they feel about cancer, but most doctors are probably against cancer. I don't know, Steve, if you have a different view.
I was pro-cancer. Personally anti-cancer, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Well,
everyone gets it.
Yeah. Yeah. And a couple of folks in the chat have also, we mentioned like we've got Americans here and others, Australia did this with gun control. I'm very persuaded by what Australia has done with gun control myself. Steve and I, you and I have talked about this too, is we don't want it to be totally US centric, but we do need to recognize that we are both Americans and I do my best to not live in an American information ecosystem, but it's going to be more of a US perspective because that's what we know about. That said, we are going to do our best to bring in folks who are experts in other countries and make sure that we're not just talking about, and a lot of the things facing the US, like climate change, policies around climate change, how do we frame it so that we actually move forward on that is something that obviously every country is dealing with, and some much more urgently than the United States.
And we can learn. We can,
totally.
One of the things that actually it's a weird effect of this, but when I start to get really overwhelmed, like it's Gilead, it's fascism, it's the Fourth Reich, and then I have to stop and sometimes kind of remember that there are many people on this planet who have been through this before. They survived it. They got past it. Like it feels like it was never going to happen in America, and the American experiment is failing. But and yes, all that is true. But also, there are a lot of people who have been through way worse, and there's a lot of lessons that we should be learning.
And this isn't even the worst for America. We've had bad times in our history with worse polarization. Yeah. That's something we could talk about on the show. Like just is this a unique period of time? How outside of American experience is it? If it's just the normal ebb and flow, we'll get through it. Let's just keep pushing forward.
But I want to know, have we had people in executive power who have had such overt disdain for the rule of law before, for the very system that they're using, they're trying to dismantle. Has that happened before?
And how do we compare that? There's a whole subfield.
But I'd like to ask that question. I'd like to address that question.
And there's a ton of research on sort of like descent out of democracy, and that's my own normative language that I call it a descent as opposed to a transition. That's my pro-democracy bias speaking right there. But there's a ton of research on what does it look like to go from democracy to dictatorship. What are the cases where it has been prevented, or what are the cases where you can reverse it? And does this look like it looks like in other countries? Does it look different? And so there's historical comparisons and there's current comparisons, and there's a lot of different ways. Is it electoral? Is it legislative? Is it in terms of, rights? Is it all economic? I mean, there's a million different, and someone in the chat also used my favorite word on the planet, which is mechanisms, right? What are the mechanisms behind the chaos that we're seeing? And are those things that we can actually do something about? And like you said, Cara, are they unique to this time, or are they uniquely bad?
Yeah.
Have qualitative had like a phase transition into something much worse than the usual?
I'd love to see some actual data on this. It certainly feels to me like Trump is unique, but that also could mean once he's out of the picture, that uniqueness goes with him. And that to me is a big open question. When Trump is no longer president and able to run for president, I'm still assuming that's going to be the case at some point, or when he dies, how much of the MAGA sort of cult aspect is going to die with him politically or physically, right?
Yeah, because it's amazing how much he's gotten so many people behind him who were diametrically opposed to him just prior to his election.
People who have tried to be mini Trumps have failed.
Yeah.
Will they fail when Trump's out of the picture? I don't know. I'm fascinated by
I also wonder if it depends on how many atrocities are actually committed. Like, at what point do we go past a threshold where everybody goes, never again, we've got to swing in the other direction? But if it's inching in that way, you're probably going to find copycats or the people who are trying to continue that agenda.
But you look at like big man or big personality politics around the world, like historically, what happens when these people die?
Yeah, Bolsonaro or even like currently, like how is
but
that?
There are people who think that Trump is their Jesus. Like he is sent by God to save America. That does not translate to anybody else. So it'll be interesting to see what happens when that factor goes away. They may shift to something else. Who knows? I don't know.
Just
it may
back to
fracture them.
Jesus.
I don't know. It'll be.
Yeah, it's like,
I'd like
we
to
just bring back
explore that
Jesus?
issue.
Did we? Is that the solution?
He's coming back.
Promote religion in the U.S. again?
When are you guys planning on? Like, do you have a timeline?
Yes, we are actively working on it. There's a lot of elements that have to be put into place. There's, the production of the content of the show, which we are, working on very diligently. But then there's the set, the digital properties. We have the name and the URL. It's political reality, the music, and then guests and shows. And we got to do a couple episodes to sort of work out the kinks.
Yeah.
So we're thinking of this fall. Maybe September at the earliest, but that's kind of optimistic. If I would
think
say
it's like
October,
if our pilot goes well, then you'll see it. And
October at the
then...
latest, I would say.
That's great.
Yeah, that's
be here before you know it.
That's an aggressive timeline, but I think it's doable. By the way, just as a total aside, for whatever reason, somebody asked, I think because the cancer thing came up, how many doctors smoke? Last time I looked up that number, and I specifically looked up that number, it's like 2%. It's really low. Because somebody said to me, well, doctors smoke more than the general population. I'm like, that is not my experience. Let me see if there's any objective data. And it was like, no, it's like 2%.
Are they
really,
all really
doctors? I don't know. I think it's just that's like the number of people who are addicted.
Yeah, like
we're out
like
here.
Are they really like overrepresented
doctors
in like the super stressful? I don't know.
I don't think it's that. I think it's just whatever other non-doctor related factors. They were smoking before they became doctors.
Old.
It might be
Young
age.
people don't smoke. It's
it might be age.
It's probably
related.
also a bias where if someone's walking down the street and someone is smoking, you don't notice it. But if you see someone in a lab coat smoking, you notice it. And so you're
notice
just going to
true. Yes, you're like, look at all the doctors
away.
Smoke. Yeah.
That,
I mean,
all doctors smoke.
It's, to me, reprehensible. Like, seriously, I think you have a responsibility to not smoke as a doctor. You know what I mean?
Or at least keep it a secret.
At least, well.
Don't do it like outside at the hospital.
Yeah, I was super sick. I got super sick in Macedonia, and I had to go to the hospital there. And we walk in, and there's a woman standing outside smoking. I'm like, oh, hello. I go and sit in. They put me in the room, put her on a gown. That same woman just comes in, no gloves, hands reeking of cigarettes, and like does the exam. And you're like, oh, like you're the lady who was just smoking 2 seconds ago. Like,
gross.
Yeah. So anyway,
I believe zinning is the new thing, right? Isn't that the modern equivalent?
What is it?
Zins. It's like a pouch, nicotine pouch that you put in your lip.
It's like snuff on steroids.
Does that not give you?
But I don't
mouth
think there's
cancer?
tobacco. It's just like pure nicotine, right? Isn't it?
Yeah, but isn't the nicotine level like way higher?
It's way higher. Well, you can get different grams of it. Like there's different levels. Whatever.
It's like when people first started vaping, and they were like, "Well, but there's no like tar." And it's like, yeah, but you're like smoking like a pack of cigarettes like every 3 hours on that thing. Like it's a lot of nicotine.
Well,
and you smell like bubble gum.
In the early days, the argument was that you're vaping, you're not burning, and that's a big difference. Creating a vapor is very different than creating a smoke.
It's a different new kind of danger.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it has issues as well, but I still think it's better than smoking tobacco.
It is not as bad. I wouldn't say better because that's a loaded term. I would say it's
not as bad
as smoking, burning tobacco, but it's bad. It should not be thought of as being safe.
Have you guys been seeing? You might get different targeted ads, but I am seeing ads sometimes for. They're almost like ADHD, like what would you call that? Like a fiddle toy or something?
Fidget spinner.
Fidget
spinner.
But they're just like wooden carved, cigarette weighted things that you can hold that have like it's just air. And so it's like it's none of the bad stuff, but it gives you that replacement behavior. And I think that's like a really smart way to get off of it.
That's part of the addiction.
Yeah, that's a huge
component anyway
for a lot of people. Yeah, it gives you the excuse to like, I got to take a smoke break at work. I got to go outside, all the things. But yeah, vaping
you could also very much get into like if there are these wooden things, you can build up a hobby around whittling and make your own. And
Yes,
shit,
you can
like,
whittle your own fidget.
Just in case anyone wanted to whittle. I think this is like every day I inch closer to just hiding in a hole and whittling for the rest. I've never whittled in my life. I just feel like if we can't solve the politics problem, Steve, I'm
return
just
to the
do
earth.
the thing. Return to the earth.
Just be a bog person.
Just being you'll just see my eyes like looking around.
Sounds amazing.
Yeah, you're invited.
Thanks.
Yeah, you're all invited to my bog.
Your bog hole.
Yeah.
All right, Ian, what else is going on in the world?
Okay, something that somebody posted on the subreddit. Cara, are you familiar with the "I fell in love with my psychiatrist" discourse on TikTok?
Uh-oh.
I'm not on TikTok, guys. I'm 41 years old.
That's you know what? You're smart.
I'm not on TikTok.
Also of that age.
I fell in love with my psychiatrist.
It's probably for the best for not. You know, somebody posted about it, and I was like, "Why are we?"
So long as it's not my psychiatrist fell in love with me, then you're fine.
Yeah, I just want to know.
Otherwise, it's a massive ethical and legal violation. Do you know that
this is the ethical disc? Yeah, go ahead.
In the state of California, can I show you what they give you when you first get your psychology license? I've got to dig it up.
Full screen.
It's in a little pile. So give me a second.
Is it going to be me?
It's probably
good.
I fixed
this
it.
is what you get with your license.
Never include. Very good.
Like literally, it's just your license and this pamphlet. And like, do you not think we went to school?
The fact that is needed is so upsetting.
Wow.
I think probably it's needed.
Well,
they're also like, what
are there any pictures?
There are a lot of other ethical violations you can make, but this is the only one that gets its own pamphlet, and it's in the mailer with the license.
That's the one the states really care about.
Yeah.
Do they have any
for whatever reason?
Cara?
For whatever reason.
Probably lawsuits.
Yeah. Well, for whatever reason, it's like the most horrible thing you could do as a mental health provider is have sex. I mean, you're with a vulnerable everything.
I can't even.
It's bad.
Wrong. Yeah.
It only exists because it's been an issue, which is so upsetting.
And the reason that it's an issue is because when people are vulnerable with other people and they open up and they tell their deepest, darkest secrets, it can
people take
promote that. Exactly. Yeah. It's
God, I don't feel
terrible.
Well.
I know. It's gross.
Well, it's a known phenomenon.
Back to the bog.
Patients can fall in love with their therapists and psychiatrists, called transference, right?
Well, that's not really what transference.
Well, that's one part of it.
Falling in love, yeah.
It's one part of it. And then there's countertransference, where they could respond to the.
Yeah, but transference is just somebody having a feeling towards their therapist.
Yeah, a feeling.
Emulate somebody else's life.
It could drive this romantic aspect of it.
And Freud was all about that. He thought all his patients wanted to fuck him.
Yeah.
And it's
almost
like
as though some of his ideas
was very
weren't
attractive.
Great. Yeah.
It's almost like you just feed him a bunch of coke and you talk to him about dicks all day, and then you're like, why are they?
Why are you so horny?
I assume that was your training, Cara.
But yeah, it is. It's bad. So I don't want to know about that TikTok.
Okay. Yeah.
Is it a channel? Are there channels?
It's become very popular because it's a 50-part series, and the discourse surrounds just what you guys talked about: whether or not this person fell in love with the therapist, whether or not the therapist was reciprocal, or she was reading into it, or where the ethics lie, or where this whole thing is made up. Like, there's a lot of discourse around it, I guess, if you want to call it that. And
any mental health professional worth their salt would bring that into the open and talk about it.
Right.
They would address it head on. They would have those conversations in a safe way. And honestly, if I had feelings for a patient, I would have to figure out how to extricate myself from that situation.
Right.
That's the ethical thing to do.
You should see another therapist.
Exactly.
This is not healthy anymore.
And sometimes people do have relationships, but the rule, the general, don't do it because it's a terrible idea regardless. But the general rule is 2 years.
2 years.
You gotta wait 2 years from the time that you saw
even doing it just feels.
Agree. It's still gross.
Hits me on a visceral level that I'm like.
Still gross.
God.
Totally.
It's like a new type of incest unlocked that I hadn't even thought about.
It's like marrying your teacher 2 years later. Like, it happens, but it's gross. I know. Like, they're in a position of power and authority over you, and you're.
Is that an issue in your world? Not you, Steve, but is that an issue in in other non-mental health?
Yes, it's not as acute as with psychiatry and therapy and mental health, but it's the same thing. Doctors should not date their patients for the same exact reason. Like, that's a vulnerable person. It violates the doctor-patient relationship, your authority, whatever. So you just should not do it. And again, it's the same kind of rule of thumb. You have to, like, if you did want to date a patient, you would say, I'm going to refer you to my colleague and not be your doctor anymore. Wait a respectful period. Blah blah blah. But even then, it's not good.
And I mean, you know that Dr. Phil surrendered his license famously after. I mean, he claimed because he did it voluntarily, but there were ethical complaints on his license around inappropriate behavior with a patient, and then later he surrendered, and so it wasn't a direct consequence. But come on,
just when you think like you've thought of all the problems,
Dr. Phil, why patient? Why?
I mean, I think the headline here is if you're a doctor and you're dating your patient, just go to a Coldplay concert. And you'll and then we'll sort it out. The last
we'll figure it out.
Question of ethics in the world is at these concerts. Wow. Yeah. No, someone in the chat, professors who marry their grad students. I mean, I know that's you.
It's the same thing. Similar.
It's similar, but yeah,
it gets less illegal as you all get older, and it's like it's allowed. It didn't happen in my program, but I knew of it, and it's allowed technically, and there's not like the 2-year waiting period. I think if they're your direct supervisor, that's not allowed. But if you're a professor and but it still rubs me the wrong way. I just
yeah, and I think there's also a difference between what's legal and what's ethical, and there's a difference between what's ethical and what's even like personally moral, and
right.
Yeah. Gross.
Yeah, but the ethics are clear. The ethics are absolutely clear.
Yeah, the ethics are clear. You get a pamphlet in the mail.
Yeah. Oh, there it is.
Just make that your profile picture on Instagram. Kara's reminder to everyone. I like the stop sign graphic. Shout out to their designer.
We had a lecture in medical school. We had a lecture on, sexuality and how that can come into play with medical care and your relationship with your patients or whatever. And it basically was about, you have to get your shit together so you don't do anything stupid, or unethical. You have to understand, don't be blindsided by this, right? There will be times when you may be sexually attracted to a patient. You're a human being, that's going to happen. But being a professional means you're prepared for it and you're not going to fucking act on it. You're going to act appropriately. And right.
It's also why you need your own, like, once you are no longer a trainee and you're no longer legally required to get supervision, you still have to maintain professional supervision, peer supervision. You want to have groups, you want to talk to, or have your own therapist. You want to talk to other people and say, these are things that are coming up for me. How would you handle this? What do you think I should do? I've been reading about it. I've been trying to manage it. You don't just go, oh, not happening, and then pretend it doesn't exist. That's when things get really
true for
bad.
ethical issues outside of the sexual misconduct,
the gross ones
overly right. Yeah, like it's like you catch a student cheating on exam, like what are the ethical ways to deal with it? I mean, obviously they're not serious, but
at the hospital all the time we would have to talk to the ethics board. I had a patient once who was in the hospital. She was dying of cancer. And it became clear to me that she didn't know that she had legal options available. And when I brought that information to some of her physicians, they still saw her as a massive suicide risk and said that because of her attempt, she wasn't eligible for end-of-life care in that way. And I was like, when we got the ethics board involved. And ultimately, the good news is she was able to use medical aid in dying and do what she needed to do. But like, it's not something that one person... We need lots of experts who know the law, know their The ethics boards are great for that reason.
Seems like a tough job, like a draining job to have. I mean, I trust you. Yeah.
All jobs are draining. Podcasting is draining. I talk to friends who are therapists and they're like couples counselors, and I'm like, I could never do that. Sounds draining.
Wow.
I think to each their own. We all find that area that speaks to us.
I mean, it is a good, like, what's the most draining job? Like the data that comes to mind that you would use is like, turnover rates and stuff like that. But I've heard that like toll booth drivers famously have the lowest tenure of any, like toll booth taker. I guess there's not really a job for that in a lot of places anymore, but that was one that
probably
once told me.
Is that because it's boring though?
I think so. I think it's just the tedium and the meaninglessness.
Oh, can you imagine?
People are just being horrible. Who's ever
But I think it was
a toll money.
But I think it was in high demand, and the benefits, I think, from what I've read, were really good. So it was hard to get that job. But I mean, still, it's a
They
job
had to pay well because nobody would fucking want to do it.
Right.
Well, and
right.
so much of it, I do think is central to one's personality. I personally believe that burnout, though, the larger proportion of burnout is institutional. And like, it's really annoying when you go to a new institution and they're like, now we're going to talk about how to prevent burnout. And it's you're the one that prevents burnout by giving me vacation time and by making sure that my shifts aren't too long.
Yeah, you do the hard work,
exactly.
not me.
But I do think there's a personality thing. There are rituals that people can get. There's good evidence, in almost every field of ways that you can reduce and prevent burnout. But it is interesting that, like, take an ER, charge nurse, for example. I just rewatched The Pit.
I haven't seen the last episode, but I've seen everything else.
I won't tell you anything. It's so good. It's so good.
I haven't seen any of it.
You can imagine that there are nurses that are constantly being turned over in an intense ER. And then there's those handful of people who've been there for 25, 30 years and they just stay. Why can they stay and the others can't?
There's draining in a physical way where you can't do it because your body breaks down if you're like a mover or construction, and there's draining psychologically. But then there's also like, maybe it's super draining and you don't leave because of sunk cost fallacy, or you just in economic reasons you can't leave. I put too much money into vet school, so now I'm going to be a vet for the rest of my life, regardless of how absolutely tortured I am every day.
Or like, I have golden handcuffs because my pension, and I've only got this many more years until my pension or whatever.
Right.
But like, for me, my rule is 2 on, 1 off. I can't do 3 patients in a row.
Interesting.
2 hours on, 1 hour off, 2 hours on. Every so often I'll do 3 if I absolutely have to, but I would never do 4. It's too much.
I can't imagine.
It's too much. Yeah.
I couldn't even imagine doing 2. I have so much respect for your work and anyone who's working in the mental health space. It just seems you must feel what the patient is feeling in a way that, I don't know, Steve doesn't feel his patient's migraines. I don't know if that's true. Maybe you do.
Ooh, there's a Black Mirror about that, though. Remember?
Oh, is there?
It's fascinating. We do, but we don't also. I think it's both. Yeah, it's both. But yeah.
Believe me, there was a lot of psychology, psychiatry in what I did.
Yeah, and neurology. You have to train in psychiatry
too. You're board certified by the the board of neurology and psychiatry. But there's a fine line between neurological and psychological psychiatric illnesses often. And it's more than, and this is every specialty within medicine. Patients can be very high maintenance. You know what I mean? Even if it's a physical problem that they're having, it can be very stressful dealing with all the things you got to deal with to manage a patient's medical issues. Sometimes it's their personal issues, it's their social issues, it's their own personality, it is their cognitive limitations, there's tons of challenges that they're facing, it's the horrible symptoms that they're having, whatever, blah blah blah. You're dealing with all of that, and it could be very stressful. And that was the biggest relief of stress for me. Retiring was just like, I'm juggling all of these clinical, patients, and these, keeping these balls in the air. I remember, like, with the last 3 months when I was seeing patients for the last time, it's like, I only have to figure out where you're going to next. I no longer have to feel the weight of all of your problems that I'm helping you manage. It was such a psychological relief. Like, I almost didn't realize how stressful it was until that stress, comes
Well,
off.
you can tell how stressful it was because now you've chosen to talk about politics instead.
And that's nothing.
No, Steve, I hadn't thought of that. That's a very fair point. Plus, you're potentially giving them life-changing or life-ending diagnoses.
The stakes are high. Yeah.
Like, in the I'm in a cancer center, so you think about just how that affects every aspect of their lives, and different strokes for different folks, right? Depending on their diagnosis and their staging and all of that. But it's not uncommon, Steve, where sometimes, I do get validation from my patients, but sometimes the most validating feedback I get is from other physicians who are like, she's so much easier to deal with now that she's seeing you.
That's great feedback.
Big part of what we do is help prepare them for their, meetings with their physicians, and processing what came out of it. Because a lot of times you go in, you get news, you don't know the questions to ask, you don't know how to handle it. But if a patient is not, like, emotionally regulated in the room, which they don't need to be, like, stoic. They can cry, they get a diagnosis.
Sure.
But if they're not emotionally regulated, they're not hearing what the doctor is saying. They're catastrophizing, all these things. So that's a huge part of it.
Now, one of the most stressful things was not being able to find a therapist for my patients who needed therapists because there aren't enough to go around.
Yep.
Or they, in Connecticut, I think this is true most places. There's basically impossible to get into, kind of insurance covered therapists, psychiatrists, whatever. And then there's the cash on the barrel, really expensive boutique therapists who they can't afford. And so you're trying to find some place for them to go to deal with their clear anxiety disorder or whatever it is that they have. They can't do it. I end up like some semi-managing it just because there's no one else to do it.
Yep.
And like sometimes even when it really shouldn't be. But it's like, all right, until you find a psychiatrist, and then I'm like spending years trying to get them to find a psychiatrist. That sucked.
And
then if they do get in with a good therapist, whatever type of therapist, that is such a relief, so much easier to manage them. Absolutely, I completely agree with that.
Yeah.
Sounds like
such an underfunded, underappreciated aspect. It's mental health is healthcare. Why do we not fund it properly? Why do we not value it properly? It's so frustrating.
It's because of that same short-sighted. Well, it's not
because we keep trying to go to Mars. That's why.
Well, what happens in NASA? What happens in hospitals a lot, and I've seen this in lots of different regions, is that it's financially, it's hard for them to go, this directly saved us money. Yeah. What they don't realize is that mental health care reduces readmission. It reduces, more severe disease. There are a lot of metrics downstream, but when you look directly at mental health, it looks like psychiatry and psychology and social work in the hospital are the least lucrative. And so we're the first ones to get cut very often.
Also, they're used to saying, oh, you want me to pay for this? Show me an x-ray that shows me there's a problem. But with mental health problems, it's like, I'm just supposed to take your word for it that you're depressed and pay for it, And
it's like, no, take the word of all 7 of their providers.
Well, I know, but they
stressing out with every phone call.
Keep asking for an x-ray or a blood test or like, I made a clinical diagnosis. This person, but they think they're getting scammed. But unfortunately, they are sometimes, right? Because there are fraudulent practitioners out there, paraprofessionals, people who will game the system, and so
they're just people who are not good at their job.
And there's people who are just not good at their job. There are con artists out there, and that's everywhere. But if you're operating in a field that is all clinical diagnoses and clinical judgment, where there is no X-ray or blood test, it's easier. So I get it. But the end result is that they don't pay for mental health in a way that's very frustrating.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And the lack of it, as someone who's not in medicine in any regard, but it seems like the lack of mental health would also cause me to not be able to take care of myself.
Totally.
Of course,
get me sicker going forward, or doing habits. There's substance abuse or whatever,
And I'm seeing a lot of messages in the comments about insurers not covering things. And I know there's not enough practitioners to go around, but the operative word here is parity law. Just remember that term.
Yeah.
It is illegal if you have a diagnosis, like a chronic mental health condition that requires ongoing treatment. It is illegal to be denied by your health insurance company mental health treatment. It is seen as parity to surgical or medical treatment if your diagnosis is a chronic diagnosis. So you have to, but they know that you don't know that. So look at parity laws in your state. Use that term when you talk to your insurer.
Katie, I thought parody the same way at first.
Oh yeah, parody. Parity, not parody.
Strange name. Yeah, I was like, I'm no marketer, but I wouldn't have started with that. But yes. Parity.
All right, we're at 6:30.
Yes.
Going fast, right?
That's it.
Yeah.
It was great to have you guys on.
90 minutes.
3:30. Yeah, Cara's been here for hours.
You have to have you guys back.
How much are you going to cut of this?
Yes.
For the
I don't touch this. This is
I cut nothing. All right, everybody. Well, so we have a Kansas show coming up, Lawrence, Kansas. If you can
come on up, it's going to be a hoot.
I hear Lawrence is very cool.
It'll be fun.
Or come
yeah,
down,
a lot of people are giving suggestions for barbecue, which apparently we got to do down there. I think.
All right, that
so
sounds
if you have
good.
any suggestions for food, feel free to email us in. Tickets are still available. Go to theskepticsguide.org and the events page. You can find more there. Anything else you want to promote? Go watch, listen to Talk Nerdy, obviously, podcast. Dr. Cara Santa Maria.
Andrea, what's the name of your podcast again?
My podcast is Behind the Data, and it's at behindthedatashow.com. We're about to launch season 3. It's all about the stories about where the data comes from that we're all arguing about and making policies based on. And so our season 3 opener, not surprisingly, will be about, sorry for the U.S. centrism, but it will be about U.S. jobs data, where it comes from, and what it actually reflects. That's been in the news. It's with Ben Castleman, who's the chief economics reporter at the New York Times. So behindthedatashow.com, coming out in a couple weeks. Thanks.
Sounds awesome.
And Steve has been on it. And Cara, one of these days, I'm going to come haunting you for it, just so you know. Bob, too. I want zombie data.
Zombie data. I'm compiling that right now.
Perfect.
Come back to Seattle. We may. Although the last time we went there, a pandemic broke out. So
that's true. It's all our fault.
Oh, you did it. Oh, it makes sense.
Oh, yeah, we were there for AAAS or something.
That's right. AAAS.
And then we ate at Dozone, that dump like dim sum place.
Yeah.
It was so good.
You're right.
And then we were like, did we all get COVID?
It was circulating in the city while we were there. We figured out in retrospect.
But we didn't know.
Yeah.
We didn't know.
Nobody
Did
knew.
you get any symptoms or anything afterwards? Or you think
no,
that would have been so early. It was back when we didn't know it was like
we would have had to have been massively unlucky, and we dodged a bullet.
Yeah.
Okay. You didn't join any choir practices or whatever it was that was like a super
but we were
event.
walking around thousands of people.
We were at a huge conference, and then we ate dim sum
inside too.
Yeah.
I was back in the
well,
before times. Yeah.
Wow.
Long ago. All right, chat. Right. That's been fun. Thanks for being here.
Everyone.
So thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Cara. Thanks,
Bye.
Bye, guys.
Skeptic's Guide to the Universe is produced by SGU Productions, dedicated to promoting science and critical thinking. For more information, visit us at theskepticsguide.org. Send your questions to info@theskepticsguide.org. And if you would like to support the show and all the work that we do, go to patreon.com/skepticsguide and consider becoming a patron and becoming part of the SGU community. Our listeners and supporters are what make SGU possible.
So it's just me. Thanks everybody for being here. We could play a quick food guess. No, I'm gonna go. Anybody else have to make 300 mini cupcakes for a trio kids birthday party this weekend? Is that because I do? So if anybody's interested in, I'm making a clotted cream carrot cake cupcake. That of course is for my daughter. She wants that. Making a cake and then little mini cupcakes for all of her friends. And then my niece's birthday is also in this month, and she's getting a tres leches strawberry tres leches cake and mini cupcakes. Then my other niece is getting a Oreo cheesecake and cheesecake cupcakes. So anybody else is doing that? You gonna do that? All right, you should do it. Maybe I'll post the recipes. It'll be I'm doing it. It's pretty fun. Is this really a secret, or is Steve having us on? I mean, I don't know. Bob knows about it and he left. I thought Cara might stay just in case, like she forgot to close it, but that's what it was. So you're awesome. Most B-Day, it's a B-Day month, and then next month is another bunch of family members have all B days, so we kind of do a joint thing. Oreo cheesecake, I know, Oreo cheesecake for the win. So I made a clotted cream myself, and then I'm gonna make a clotted cream cheese frosting for the carrot cake, and then I'm making a mascarpone whipped cream frosting so that it like is stabilized for the tres leches. Andrea knows too, though, but everybody was like, everybody was like, happy birthday to all. Happy birthday to all of chat. Thank you for being here. We'll see you next Wednesday. Okay, everybody. Bob forgot. A bidet. Okay. Yeah, a bidet. Yeah, that's, well, not in America, although we should be bringing that technology. See, if we weren't spending so much money on NASA, we would have bidets in every bathroom in America. But, what are you going to do? Got to get to the moon. Damn, I'm so hungry now. I do apologize. I might make some macarons. Oh, Sharon, you made some such good ones. Will it clotted cream? It will. All right, everybody. Thanks for being here. We'll see you on Wednesday. Listen to the show. The show, in case you got an alert that said the show was not available today, it is fixed now, so you can download it. The Friday, one day early show. And that's it. Thanks everybody for being here. Bye bye. Bye bye. Bye bye. Bye bye.